Guten Tag, welcome to a new episode of One-on-One Interviews, episode number 23. Today, as usual, we're going to talk about physical performance, and we are again in Audi Dome, in our basement weightlifting room, and I have to say that this is home for both guys over here because, as you know, this season I'm a strength coach for the first team of Bayern Munich basketball, and I was lucky enough to meet here Dennis, who has been in the club longer than me. He's working with our Pro B team, and what I've seen so far in the last 7-8 months is that you have great knowledge, big experience, and this is something that I think it's very valuable to share with people as much as we can in the next 45 minutes, 1 hour. So please, let's start this interview with a little bit of your background, especially background in education. And of course, you can explain a little bit to people how you ended up working for Bayern Munich.
Sure. Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Great honor to speak with you, and I can only give it back the compliment. You're doing great stuff here with the first team.
Thank you.
To my person, just as a quick overview, I studied sports science in Vienna, in Austria, did my bachelor there, and I wasn't so much into weightlifting and training. I was just studying, and I played basketball. Like before, when I lived in Münster, a little city in the northwest of Germany, and then for studying I left, but I always was into basketball. Then I went to Paris to study sports science there, and I really get out of shape in Paris because I was partying a lot, blah, 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 and went back to Austria completely out of shape. And the first basketball practice I had, I injured myself really bad. Like, knocked my ankle, my leg was blue until here, couldn't move, barely move, and it stayed like 1 year that I couldn't really move my ankle. The doctor said I have to do operation, but I was kind of scared and said, okay, I try myself to fix it, blah, blah, blah. Didn't get really good, so I had to skip basketball or quit basketball. And I did nothing for like 2 semesters or something, just theory and sports science, But then I was looking for a job and started to work in a gym. Okay, I wasn't, as I said, so interested in weights or any kind of physical preparation. It's just basketball in my head. But then I started to know some really inspiring personal trainers right there, and I discovered like, okay, there's more than just bench pressing and curling dumbbells, right? It's a huge world what's behind the combination of practice and science, right? So I started to get deeper and deeper and deeper, and I don't know if you remember the site T-Nation? Of course. The site, if you're interested in training and you want to know a little more than the normal stuff you get out of books or in university. And then there was this one coach which inspired me a lot, Charles Poliquin, which probably every one of your listeners know. I don't know how famous he still is, but he was very successful. He had like 600 Olympians or something, like unbelievable. Then he has athletes from NHL, NBA, blah, 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 blah. And what he had was this mindset thing, like there's always a solution. And this, I felt this so much that I started to work on my ankle, and I started researching where I could learn the stuff of Charles Poliquin. You know, because I wanted to get more into personal training, and I started to get this nerdy touch, what he has, like to go very, very, very deep into everything, like had me. And then I started researching, blah, 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 and then I stumbled over some coaches who learned from Poliquin and taught what he taught them. Mm-hmm. And then I got into deep squats a lot, and what I recognized was my ankle got better. The doctor told me it will never be better again. He said we have to make it stiffer because it will hurt more and more and more. And since I discovered no, you have to do the opposite. You have to go into training. You have to re-establish the structures around the ankle, blah, blah, blah. And they worked out for me. And so I got hooked, you know. And then, yeah, I got crazy about all the Poliquin and more coaches, and I started to read and took the seminars, blah, blah, blah. And that's basically my background. The time I was very much into weight training, I skipped basketball because I couldn't do it anymore after the injury. And after I went to Munich for doing my master studies, which I didn't do at the end because I got the job at Bayern Munich very quickly by accident. Then I said, okay, I go into practice right now. I do personal training and Bayern Munich. And then this was the first time I got back to basketball. So I combined both of the passions I had for the first years of my career.
Bravo.
That's it.
Perfect. Let's talk in this very first part a little bit more about the Poliquin education, because I think it's a big thing. And as you know, I hope that all of the listeners, regardless of the age, know who Charles Poliquin is and what he brought to world of strength and conditioning, regardless of the sport as well. And I think it's very valuable what he left as a legacy, inspired and educated so many coaches around the world. We were lucky that many of his trainees came back to Europe and shared this knowledge with guys like you. I can just say that I know briefly about the education, but I know the approach of Charles Poliquin more or less from what I've seen in different webinars, seminars, and informal educations, materials that I was able to watch. Mm-hmm. But you went through the educations, so and you know people who are currently instructors of his system. So I would like to hear a little bit more, especially because I think in this way we can promote the education system and also inspire some of the younger coaches or even experienced coaches to get certified. So please tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, what I have to say, I didn't go through the direct education from him, right? I just read his things, got hooked, and then I was researching, and a few articles stood out to me. There was, for example, maybe we can speak later about it, Achieving Structural Balance. This was one article on T-Nation. I think it's still online, so for your listeners who don't know this article, I recommend it because it's very logical for me. Then the 5 elements. This is about like biochemistry and neurotransmitter. He was very much into traditional Chinese medicine. He had a very holistic approach, right? So this is kind of translation from TCM to Western culture. A very good article. And one other was Experts Roundtable. There were 5 coaches out of Europe, Canada, America, I don't remember, who shared their experience with the Poliquin education. And one of them had a German name, Wolfgang Unselt. I was like, okay, copy paste, was searching for Wolfgang Unselt, boom, Stuttgart. Okay, that's the way, because before go to Canada, go to the United States, right now I would definitely do it, but in a younger age, money is not there, you don't know if it's worth the money, blah, 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 so you don't go so far for your first seminars, right? Yeah. So I was very lucky to have Wolfgang Unselt, and he was in the, I think it's PCIP, was the combination of letters where he got the certification system for coaches. You could do level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 5 was the last level. And to reach this, Poliquin wanted you to have, I think, either it was gold or silver with Olympic athletes. And Wolfgang won, I think he won gold with Netherlands ice skating. So he had PCIP level 5. I was like, okay. So he had all the levels, and I went there, and he did it not the same way, but very similar. He did the system, and everyone can still learn from him. I think there are many other coaches in Europe. I don't know the names. There's one more in Germany. He's called Daniel Knebel. The rest in Europe, I don't know, but it's very easy to find out. Just PCIP 5 level coaches, and they teach because they know all the stuff, and so many coaches are interested, so they teach. And then I did all the things like functional anatomy, nutrition, skin fold measurement. I think it's 3 basic seminars and then it's 3 advanced seminars. And what you learn is basically how to lift, exercise selection, how you do the exercises properly, body fat measurement, but it goes a little deeper because you have 13 skin folds. Poliquin had 12, Wolfgang Unzel teaches 13 for different reasons. And every skin fold tells you a little bit about the body, where the fat storage is. Sometimes, for example, you have the skin fold right here, which represents cortisol. This one here is testosterone. This one here is GHA, or how deep is your sleep. Scapula is carbohydrate tolerance. This is blood sugar, and so on. So if you have the 13 skin folds, which you measure, you can see a little bit deeper about the lifestyle, about your clients. For athletes, I sometimes don't know how valuable that really is, but for personal training, which I do as well, this is sometimes very helpful to give accurate tips, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is basically what you learn. Yes, advanced seminars and some stuff on the side, like neurotransmitters, like gut health, and holistic things. And I went through all this stuff, and for me it was very, very helpful to develop as a coach. Yeah. And some of the things I think it's very helpful for athletes as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. I told you guys that this guy is going to be very interesting. We take a short break and we are coming back. Boys and girls, we are back. Now we are in the main part of the interview with Dennis. Let's start with structural balance, something that you will explain to us what it means, what is the position in the training of athletes.
Okay. The structural balance approach is from Charles Poliquin again. I think you know better than me, but I think a lot of coaches are following a structural balance approach in any way. It doesn't mean anything else that an athlete has to be balanced from his muscular performance. So to start from the beginning, from the history, Poliquin was the first, I know who did this, who said, like, for athletic performance, the base of everything is that you are healthy. Because as soon as you have a problem, this is the limiting factor, right? So it's like if you have a big problem in your life, everything else will slow down because of this problem, right? So if you find the weakest link in the chain, the whole system will take a step further, right? So, and what he developed is like, he was a numbers guy, was very into numbers, so he did an Excel sheet and he correlated ratios of lifts. Let's say you have 100% bench press, and this is, to keep it simple, 100 kilogram. Like I said before, he worked with a lot of athletes, and he found out the perfect ratio for shoulder health is that when you do flat bench, 45-degree torso-humerus for 100 kilo, then you have 66.6 kilogram sitting press out of the neck. Another thing is, if you have 100% bench press, then your 45-degree incline bench press, same angle, is 91%. Or chin up 100%, the curl, supinated, 45-degree bench is 45%. So he had ratios from every lift to another. He calculated it, typed it in Excel, and so he got those spider graphs. Do you call it like this in English? Yeah. Spider graphs. And so you would graphically see which, in the whole kinetic chain, where you got the least power output of all the lifts. He standardized every lift or a few lifts, like outside rotation here with teres minor, outside rotation here, infraspinatus. For example, Powell raise, where you lie on your side and open up. So your shoulder blade retractors work, and he calculated, for example, that you have to be able to open up 8 times, 9.8% of your 1 rep max in the flat bench. So, and there was a story from a hockey player, if I remember right, Mackenzie or something, I don't remember. And he said he put 50 kilogram on his bench press during one summer without training bench, because his limiting factor was the rotator cuff. So he made his rotator cuff stronger, and by building a base and making his upper back stronger, his bench press exploded at the same time, because not only the specific lift make the power output better, the whole kinetic chain plays a role. Okay, and this is, and you can do it with squats to deadlifts, chin up supinated to pronated, whatever. You can have a ratio in every lift, so find out what's the weakest link. And he said, and I follow his approach, this is the fastest way to have a structural balance, which means you have a healthy athlete who can then, based on a perfect structural balance, develop the skills who make him stronger in his sport specifically. Let's say for basketball, definitely posterior chain to overcome inertia. In speed sport like basketball is very, very important. So your lower back has to be very, very strong, right? To open up your hip. And then you can do a program like, let's say, short range to long range, strength speed to speed strength. But first, you have to see that the athlete is structurally balanced. And this is the approach, because you work with grown men, already very, very good athletes. In my case, in our Pro B, we have a lot of 15, 16, 17 years old who lack maximal strength, which is because of their training age. Sometimes they never touch the dumbbell when they walk in here. So first thing is I try not to let them train on this function. First thing is I see that the structure is okay, and then I put on max strength, and then I put on specific, let's say, speed strengths for basketball, right? And that sometimes takes 3, 4, 5 years. So, but the base of it is the structural balance approach, where you find like the weakest link in the kinetic chain. And there, last thing for that is what you can do, and what I do is little assessments to have a good first impression of the athlete. And one of the things is, for example, the CLUT test. You might know it. For your listeners who don't know it, it's you have an athlete jump from platform, which is maybe half of your calf of the size, or maybe even lower. You let him jump off one leg, and then you discover what happens to the athlete. For example, if the knee buckles in, probability is high that the vastus medialis right here is the limiting factor for knee stabilization. If you jump forward, it's your hamstring. If you lean forward, it's your gluteus maximus. If you do like shake a bit, quadratus lumborum might be weak. It's always a might, right? It's not 100% true, but you get an idea of the structural balance of the body. Which muscle is not doing his job optimally? So if I find this muscle, if I identify it, and then if I have the right execution of the right exercise with the right sets and reps, this might be the fastest way to let him achieve structural balance, to be able to get him specific strengths and other abilities for his sport. So this is basically the approach.
I love it. I think it's you explained it so well. Now I have two a little bit more practical questions. First one is, when you have a team of young athletes, how do you organize work, and how much does it take to test them so you can design program that is individualized?
Yeah. So the organization really depends on the head coach, because I think you lift mostly all together, right? We did it last season and this season. It's often that they have like basketball specific development, technical stuff. One part of the group, like let's say 6 people, and 6 are in the weight room, which makes it very easy to work with them, because the assessment, like the club test, there are some other tests like the modified Thomas test, where you lie down, where you can see the hip flexor, rectus femoris, structural things. They take like 1 to 2 minutes for each test. So, and if you do it like 6-7 years, like I did it, it just sticks in your head, right? You see one athlete and you already have an idea, because they have specific way to move. So they walk in and you think like, okay, let's test this vastus medialis first, okay? And then I start not really to individualize the program first session, because what I do is I want everybody to develop maximal strength over full range of motion in the main lifts. Like let's say if an athlete can squat down all the way so that your thigh covers your calf, you're really flexible in your ankle, in your knee, in your hip, this is a good sign structurally that no joint is really limited, right? And if he's able to do that first session, I say, okay, take the bar, squat down. If he isn't like really, really weak, he should be able to squat down with 20 kilos. Then if it works, sometimes I elevate the heels to protect the lower back if he rounds a little, to make it biomechanically easier. But then I start with them, if it's off season, which is normally the starting point, with high volume. And say some technical points like put the elbows under the bar to protect your spine, go down a little bit more, stick your chest out, dump over the bar, like little things, session to session, to make them technically just better, because repetition makes a skill, right? So I try in the main lifts to go high volume, because muscle mass could improve via higher volume approach. They don't play so much basketball in off season, and I make them technically better. And then from circle to circle, I cut down volume a bit to increase maximal strength, see where they are. And if someone has really like a structural problem, I take them out and test them more specifically, and then I give them maybe individualized program from the beginning on. But could be that in the first 6 weeks, like first 2 weeks, everyone is doing an 8x8 squat, everyone. Like no matter how tall you are, how fast you are, how old you are. But just to see, to make them a lot of repetitions, to see them move, to figure out which problems or how every athlete moves. Then I make some notes, and then I start to see, okay, this one has a really weak lower back. We start with 8 times 1 to 2 rack deadlifts, because I want the maximal strength to go up. This is first goal. This is limiting factor in his energy systems. This guy is always tired after 20 minutes. Okay, we go higher reps. This guy weighs 60 kilos on 1.90 m. Okay, let's do some hypertrophy work. Okay, but first I try to make them technically better, because this is the base for everything, right? Then you can start make them stronger, and to be honest, that maximal strength then is the base for hypertrophy, is the base for speed, and so on. So this is technique must be, I mean, they are not weightlifters, they are still basketball players. This is something which is very important. It don't have to be 100% perfect, but good enough. And then put some strengths if the system is structurally good enough, and then put hypertrophy or specific speed components or whatever on it. Yeah, that's basically the periodization model in total.
Okay, now before I ask the second question, because it's related more towards the elite settings, sub question is related to your group of guys. So let's say that you have been in the club for several years, and now you're approaching your new off-season and pre-season, and you changed 6 players, 7 players, but then 6, 7 guys you already know from before. Would you continue, like in the preseason when you already have 6, 7 guys that you know, would you put them to go in the program with new guys? Okay, so basically the 8 8 reps, everyone squats for several weeks.
Guys. Yeah, it's more an assessment than it's a mixture of an assessment and a training program, right? If someone is ready, then you start periodization from the 8x8 on. If you are not ready, we take you out, we test you, individualize the program, but the rest of the squad, who I already know, where I know what he needs the most, they got individualized practice. They go on, like if the season is over, maybe they go 2 weeks to Gardasee or whatever, but as if they return, we start right there. We go on, because they are so young. It's the age where they really can have an influence on their career by getting stronger, staying healthy. I think the off season is because most of the guys here are Munich guys, so they live here. They can train 5-6 times a week. So they really, if they don't have national team, they really can improve their performance drastically. It's not like in the pro world where off season is trading and go wherever. I don't know how's the off season in your case. It's very different, right?
It's different. First of all, you don't know. It depends from year to year how many players you have under contract. Many guys are still not signed. You always have 2-3 late signings. Then you have to give some rest to the guys. Some of them want to travel more with their families, so they don't have the best access to facilities. So you have to be, in that sense, very flexible. You have to see what they're gonna have on the road regarding the equipment. Then you can prepare the programs. And then one of the most limiting factors to continue to work in the same direction how you did in the previous season is if they go with the national teams, and then in elite European basketball, many of your guys on the team are the members of their national teams. So if we talk about this summer, we're going to have at least half of our guys playing for the national teams, and they have, right after the season, they have qualifying tournaments for the World Cup, and then they have like 2 weeks break, and then they will rejoin the national team again to start preparing the European Championship. So we will see how it goes, but yeah, it's very challenging. You have to adjust to all the limitations, but in the end, you kind of find a way to work with the guys. And then on the other hand, you have many guys that they have their private coaches, so you have to respect that they maybe want to refresh a little bit their mind, working with the guy who they know, or a girl who they know for many years. So it's again, it's balancing your own desires together with theirs, or the suggestions of their private coaches. So yeah, it's quite different, but okay, that's our job to adjust and to find the best solution for the athlete, not for ourselves. To go back to the second question that I wanted to ask, and it is related about to testing 1 RM max in order to get these ratios, because we know that when it comes to elite basketball, and you have been with us, it's not like you work only with the Pro B team, you have been with us, you are helping us throughout the season very often. Now you know that because of safety, we are not chasing 1 RM with basketball players. They have games every 48 to 72 hours. What would be the best solution in order to calculate ratios? Would you go down to assessing all of the lifts in 3 RM or 5 RM, so you can assess in that sense, what would be the solution?
That's exactly what we did. A friend of mine, and we wrote the software for this. We did the normal 1RM table, which everybody knows, where you have like 1 is 100, 95 is 2, 90 is 3, 85 is 4, más o menos, right? It's different if you have fast twitch, slow twitch, fiber athletes, blah, blah, but más o menos it's right. So I read I don't test them for 1AM, never. What I sometimes do is go really low in reps. If the season, it's different, because sometimes we have one game the week. And sometimes if it's NBBL, for example, like really a youth team, and you know the next opponent is not the strongest, you can, in the season, lay the focus on strength training, because this is for the development of the athlete, which is priority. For you, it's winning games. For us, there is development of the 1, 2, 3, 4 very gifted athletes, or those who are gonna be, which we don't know. This is even more important, you know? If we lose championship, we want to win for sure, but to produce healthy, strong athletes is the priority number 1. So sometimes even in season, we can say, okay, we do 4 times lifting with low reps. Happens. Then I split it off, blah, blah, blah. But then if I type it in, I type every training, I type in the numbers, like what you perform, because I can read out of the plans. If your performance drops by more than 20%, I either put you out of strength training, let you do something else the next week, because I see it's too much load for the nervous system. But if anything goes normal, I read it out, I put it in the plan, and the software we wrote, it calculates it for the 1RM. So even if you do 5 reps on the bench, I have the 1RM right now. I don't test 1RM.
Okay.
It's too dangerous in the deadlift and the squat. The bench for what? No. It's more or less the structural balance approach is it's not 100%. It's more an idea. If I think, okay, you have 100 kilo bench press, but you can push 20 kilogram out of your neck. Okay, there is something wrong. We should prioritize vertical push, right? This is not very accurate. Like I go 9.8%. No. You know,
there is some range.
It's a range, yeah. And I don't measure 1RM at all.
Okay, excellent. Next question is related to neurotransmitter assessment, something that you mentioned before. Yep. Can you please talk a little bit deeper about it?
Yeah, this is a very interesting thing which didn't really arrive in European elite basketball, or did it?
Not really.
Not really? But the top strength coaches know.
I hope so.
Yeah, because I don't know how far it is. I experienced it, I was in Florida with Preston Green. He's a strength coach, famous, very, very good strength coach, and I did an internship with him, and he does it every season. And it's basically a test from Eric Braverman, who's very much, neurotransmitter assessment is, neurotransmitters are little chemical transmitters of signals. And you have a few, but 4 important. And this is dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter for drive and success. Then you have acetylcholine. Sorry for the German
accent there, but okay.
Acetylcholine, maybe acetylcholine, and which is on the motoric plate in between synapses and muscles, which make the muscle contract. So this is a neurotransmitter very important for athletes. Then you have GABA, which is an inhibiting neurotransmitter, which calms down the nervous system. And then you have serotonin, which is for peace and harmony. So these 4 make your character. And you have dominances of those neurotransmitters. Let's say in weightlifting, it's like this. If you have a dopamine guy, you need to change the program every week. because he gets bored. He needs low reps, high intensity, but you burn him out quickly with high reps. He wouldn't make progress if it's really a dopamine guy. The acetylcholine guy is maybe the guys you work most with. It's grown-up athletes, can jump high. They don't tolerate volume so much, but they are like fast jumpers. They like variation. So exactly what you do, you variate a lot. The exercises, these acetylcholine guys like variation. Then you have the GABA guy, like Preston Green told me, this is the structured guy. It's often the guard in basketball who's a leader, who can talk. They can do one program for 3 to 4 weeks and still make progress. And then you have the serotonin guy, which is not often in sports like basketball, football, because this is more maybe dancing or yoga. This is very quiet, peaceful, and not so competitive. So these are the dominances which you could have, but then you could be deficient on everyone, on every neurotransmitter. And the most common things are serotonin, which is a depression, if you don't produce enough serotonin, and GABA. So if you don't calm down your nervous system, which gets more and more into kids because they play PlayStation and handy all the time, they have a dopamine overload. It's like these neurotransmitters work together. So if dopamine pushes all the time via PlayStation, sports, handy, blah, blah, GABA tries to inhibit. But if you've produced too much dopamine, GABA is empty. And if you don't have GABA, it's not good because you burn out, right? It's like if you have an oil lamp and you have the fire, this would be dopamine, and if you have the oil, this is GABA. But if you put fire all the time at the candle and the oil is empty, the system doesn't work anymore. So neurotransmitters as well as muscles have to be balanced. This is the neurotransmitter assessment which everyone can find from Eric Braverman. It's just a psychological test. I don't remember how many questions. It takes 1 hour to do it, which makes it not so practical for athletes if you send them out. And the questions are very weird sometimes. It's a bit weird, but I invite every one of your listeners because it's very interesting, because you get, after 1 hour of filling out those questions, you have to count the true or false numbers, and then you get which type of dominance you have. And then as a second part of the whole Braverman thing is in which neurotransmitters you are deficient. And if you have more than 5 points in deficiencies, it's a mild deficiency. If you have 15, it's not good, and it's more than 25, it's catastrophe. And I tested some, and I already had minus 22 and some points like this in GABA. So this means they have school, basketball, no weekends, handy, music, YouTube. This empties GABA, right? And this makes you burn out quicker and not recover so well, because you need light and shadow, right? A balance. And this is what the neurotransmitters are about. And the first time I stumbled over it was the 5 elements of Charles Poliquin. There he describes, because it comes from traditional Chinese medicine, where you have fire, earth, wind, metal, I think, and one more. And this is practically it, expressed in Western words.
Perfect.
Neurotransmitter assessment, yeah. And which I see coming in basketball. Because why not go into biochemistry? Maybe there's another way. I think you could test it in blood. I'm not sure about it. But there are ways to fight against deficiencies, right? If someone is GABA deficient, restore GABA, and he will be better on the field at the end, because only a healthy athlete, right, produces performance. So I see that the time of neurotransmitter assessment is coming.
I think it's super valuable. First of all, it's great that it's free of charge. Basically, you don't have to organize anything. You don't have to give blood samples, run deeper analysis, pay big money to clinics or studios to analyze the blood. Okay, it's a little bit time consuming. Hopefully we can reach out to the author and ask him if he can make a shorter version, like at least to cut it down to 30 minutes.
Yeah, would be good.
That would be great for the athletes. But then on the other hand, if you work individually, if you want to give it only to certain players for whatever the reasons are, I think it's definitely worth doing it. And at least you can do it for yourself and try to experiment a little bit in the upcoming months with your personal life and see if there might be any changes, because once you go through the questionnaire, you don't know actually how to cheat it. No, because if you give honest answers, you still don't know what's going to be the outcome.
True.
Because in those big questionnaires, you have always questions that in the end, they don't influence the score, but you have them, then you have, like, it's, if it's a valid questionnaire, which I believe it is, then it's gonna, give you always appropriate results, Excellent. Last question in the main part is related to supplements. I know it's your big passion. You're very knowledgeable about this part as well. We are both in the club in charge currently for the supplements. Share with us a little bit your approach when it comes to your, for example, personal supplementation, supplements that you would give to your athletes, and then maybe even you can talk about something that you suggest for the elite players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think supplementation in pro sports is not where it could be, because I think I was in Florida, as I said. For example, what they do is they take blood work every month to find out which are the foods which the athlete tolerates, right? You have those markers where we have green or red, and all the foods where you have a red sign, let's say tomatoes or cashews or whatever, it's 300 foods. They just cut them out completely to make the stomach work properly, and Preston said this is a very good way to make them sharper on the field. I mean, this is not directly connected to supplements, but what I thought at this moment is like crazy. I didn't see it even in soccer. I'm not sure if they are on this level, but when you see at the salaries and so far, this, I mean, to take blood work once a month and to find out which foods you are not tolerating, this is very easy. For if there's a lot of money and if you pay 20 million for a player to come to your club, it should be possible. And so the next step I thought is, it's like supplements. It's easy to find out vitamin D. Is it below 20? So move it up. There are studies who say the optimal level for vitamin D is above 60. It's not like in Germany they say it's between 20 and 30, there's no problem. Okay, this is standard, but we are pro athletes. It's like if you have a bicycle, you have to go once a year to a mechanical dude who repairs it, but those are top athletes. It's like you have a rally car, right? You have to go every week to a mechanical expert to see if the tires are okay, if the screws are all right, if the oil is all right, if the motor is all right. And supplements are exactly this. It's the little things like vitamins, I don't know, Spurenelemente in English, I don't know the word, like magnesium, zinc, blah, blah, blah. Those are the little screws in a rally car, you need them to perform at optimal level. And this is from a financial standpoint. I think everybody should just test it once half a year and see where you are deficient. For example, magnesium. It's proven that sport, alcohol, and stress will take magnesium out of your body. And at the same time, it's proven that where you have vegetables growing right now, how you say?
Soil, the ground.
The ground is not able, because of the cheap
Mineral content.
mineral content, it doesn't take up so much magnesium. So if you eat your carrots, okay, but it doesn't give you the magnesium it did 20 years before, okay, because we destroyed the soil. So even if you do the 5, 6, 7 recommended portions of vegetables, how many athletes do it? None. So the probability that you are deficient in magnesium, zinc, vitamins, whatever, is very high. So it's for sure it's worth to test it. And for sure, I think it's the easiest way to make the athlete a little better without any, I mean, strength training, you need time and energy for this. But to take your supplements, just to put deficiency by side, is so easy that I sometimes wonder why it isn't huge in Germany. I think maybe it's a scientific, you're much deeper in science than I am, but I think a lot of those things are scientifically proven. You know?
Yeah, I mean, from scientific point of view, I don't think it's very reliable because every person is unique in that sense. And on the other hand, they say with the blood tests for food intolerance, you cannot be always accurate because it might change. So
it changes. It's adaptive.
That's why scientifically it's proven, but on the other hand, scientifically it's proven that body changes the tolerance or intolerance to food. So what you do in August at the beginning of the season, it doesn't mean that will last for all of the intolerance supplements or food will last for the whole season. So as you said, like you can run in some clubs, they run it once a month, or at least once every 3 months and so on. When it comes to vitamin D, you know that you don't have to maybe do it like every month. No. You can test, you can see if someone is deficient, you can provide a dose that is adequate for that person, and then, for example, in 3 months, I think it's worth reassessing, so you can see that if you improved vitamin D level. But then on the other hand, if you're approaching winter time, again you have to retest to see the negative impact of winter time and lack of sun and so on. So I think from that point of view, I think more teams, more athletes should go in that direction of blood analysis for food intolerance, but also, as you said, for the content of their mineral quality and especially magnesium, you know, and zinc, because you don't play with just taking supplements because someone said it's good to take multivitamins or minerals. You have to know if you're deficient in something and attack that specific issue. When it comes to blood analysis and food intolerance, you have to play with it because, you know, it's not always that you have to feel that some food is hard on your stomach or is causing problem with your gut and, you know, you're constipated or you have problems going on the toilet. You know, it doesn't have to be that big problem that it impairs your performance. Yeah. It can be a small issue that you cannot feel physically, but then on the other hand, to a certain extent, it impairs maybe your endurance, your rate of recovery, and so on.
If we talk about like optimal training, I think the effort to test or to take specific supplements to the outcome, like have an athlete not performing 98, let him perform 99 or 100%. Effort and benefit, I think you should do it. Every team, I think this is a piece of the puzzle which is not where it could be. I think it is easy to find out where are deficiencies and to adapt a little. I mean, you are right, you have to test often. As I said, in Florida Gators, they test every month, I think, the blood. Because when I only eat egg, the marker for eggs will be red next month, right? So I have to rotate. But this is a very good way to keep rotation. Because, I mean, you have 300 foods out there, and how many athletes statistically eat. They stick with pizza and maybe steak, okay, some veggies, but they don't have the rotation which would be optimal for their bodies, right? So I think there, and in supplements, there lies a very easy solution to make them 1% better. And this is something that like came into my mind as I was in Florida, like how easy it is if there is enough money available, for sure. I mean, testing, like you said before, is always a financial question as well. But
okay, let's finish the main part with the last question, and it is related to supplements. For which supplements do you believe that are worth using at all times, regardless of the sport, regardless of the athlete using it, I mean his age? And here I'm talking now about the basic supplements like protein shakes, protein carbohydrate shakes, creatine, caffeine, what else could be like super basic stuff that we don't go too deep into. Vitamin D, beta-alanine. We could say that it's one of the popular supplements. Which supplements do you use regardless of blood analysis tests and so on? And what would you recommend?
yeah, I recommend a multi, which is it the same word in English? Multi? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Which is like a basic covering of everything you need, like from the A vitamin to B, C, magnesium, zinc, chlorella. It covers all of it. With like, let's say from in the B vitamins, it could be like 10,000% of your RDA, because vitamin E, D, K, and A stay in the fat, but if you have B vitamins, you could dose them very, very high, and they would just go through the body in the worst case. So this is what I recommend everyone, because who buys this quality of meat to get a good vitamin K1, K2 out of it? Not so many. So I would always provide a base of all those vitamins you need in a multi, and then it's definitely magnesium. I think the probability that you are deficient in magnesium, or that you benefit from taking magnesium in the evening for muscles, for brain health, for sleep, is 100%. That's it. I think, whey shake, for sure. It helps you recover. It gives you a little more protein, let's say 40 to 50 gram. Some don't tolerate whey because of the milk. Then you have to do rice protein or whatever, a vegan shake, which works as well, but gives you after training. When you drink a protein shake, the effect is not only that you have those 50 gram, let's say, of extra protein, which helps you repair. The good thing is that it puts up insulin, and insulin is the antagonist hormonally from cortisol. And if you drive down cortisol as an athlete from training, this is very healthy, because you want to come down as fast as you can after training to have GABA stores recovered and so on, and just to improve sleep and so on, recovery. So whey shake is definitely a go-to. Creatine, I think nothing speaks against creatine. Maybe, I think if you take it with carbohydrates, the danger is there that you get heavier, right? It pulls water into the muscle, but it's only if you take it with carbohydrates. All those myths about you should take 2 weeks of creatine and then go off and then go on again, it's not true. And even it's dangerous for the kidneys. No, it's not. It's the most researched supplements in human history, and it's really for basketball. It's for resynthesis of ATP-CP in the cell. So, and we are a very fast, explosive sport. So, a faster synthesis of ATP-CP would make sense. Yeah. So I think it's a good thing to do. And yeah, I don't see any argument against. But if you take it with carbohydrates, like sometimes recommended, you could get 2-3 kilos of water, which makes you maybe a little bit slower. What you say? I don't know. Do you recommend it?
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't have to be a high dosage. At least like half daily dosage should be there for recovery, as you say, for replenishing the ATP, CP levels and stores for the upcoming events. But then if you can go full dosage, it's perfect because it can maybe improve even performance, and then if someone has this retaining water above normal levels, and you can track if the athlete is gaining weight in the long run, maybe you can decrease a little bit the dosage of creatine, cut it in half, and then see what happens if they drop this additional water. Maybe you can stay with this minimum dose. So you have to play with it like with every supplement, but I think creatine is definitely worth using.
The feedback I got from athletes who took it was 100% good. They felt stronger and faster. So far.
Excellent. Excellent. Dennis, thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you.
It was an amazing episode. Please tell people where they can find you.
Only on Instagram. It's Dennis Thannhäuser, like my name, just on Instagram. And I do a podcast as well, where I already invited you. Maybe I know your time frame is very limited.
We'll do it.
Next week's maybe you have a spot. It's High Flyers Academy. This is also on Instagram, and the podcast you find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so on. High Flyers, spelled with a Z at the end, minus Academy. And there we speak in German. Some English episodes will follow. The one with you, I hope, will be the first, with coaches and athletes from the pro leagues above, like how to increase potential and so on. These are the 2 addresses where you can find me.
Wow, perfect. Guys, I really hope that you enjoyed the episode. You have to share this one. I hope you will do it. I hope also that I will have another great guest such as Dennis very soon for you. Until then, stay safe, train well, eat well, sleep good, and just enjoy life. Bye-bye.
Take your supplements.